They just captured the Minnesota lawmaker shooting suspect, Vance Bolter. And now, officials admit he left behind a manifesto that could hold critical clues about why he targeted those two Democratic lawmakers. But before we get into the story, please like, comment, and share Explain America. We really like that you support common sense journalism, and we ask the questions the corporate media won't. Now, authorities today revealed Bolter left a written document behind, what some people are calling a manifesto. But here's the shocking part. They're refusing to release it to the public, and they're explaining why. Watch.
I'm going to give Ellen, sorry, we're going to give it to Ellen, and then we're going to have one more question.
Can you talk a little bit more about the manifesto and what kind of motivation it might be doing? We're told that there might be some pro-choice lawmakers on this manifesto, and that has anything to do with the motivation here?
At this point in time, it'd be premature. The question was, is the manifesto and the information that we have received, is their motivations? We are working diligently on that. There's certainly some indications within that, but there's not specifics enough. We have been, this is a very active and fluid investigation. Throughout the day, as you've been waiting, and these teams have been out working out in the field, and they have been gathering more documents and information, so it would be premature for me at this point to really say exactly what the motivation might be from these writings, but we will be continuing to work on that and provide that information when we're able.
So these Minnesota officials claim it doesn't contain enough detail to determine a motive. That's it. No pages, no contents, no transparency. It's a pattern we've seen before. In Tennessee, officials blocked the release of the Audrey Hale manifesto from the Nashville mass shooting. And when a gunman nearly killed President Trump at Mar-a-Lago, the shooter's anti-Trump manifesto was released almost immediately. It called for Americans to get the job done and even offered a large bounty on his head. So why is information about this case being hidden from the public? Bolter allegedly killed the sitting lawmaker in Minnesota, a Democrat, and she was one of the few members in the entire state house who took a stood with the Republican Party and voted to strip illegal aliens from health care benefits. And in a separate attack, a state senator was wounded, almost killed, his spouse shot, attempting to protect their daughter, and again, he supported stripping health care from illegal aliens. And he was also a Democrat. So if it was one case, one targeted case, you might be able to plausibly argue that this was some type of anti-Democrat animus he had. He must have been a MAGA supporter. But that's what some of his friends have actually been trying to float online, his so-called friends. But this looks to me like a plausible deniability operation. This guy was heavily involved in international operations. He, as is a story I personally broke, actually, he had a security group called Red Lions Group, LLC, and it was shown through U.S. government spending documents that he had received a small business loan of approximately $20,000 several years back, and it was subsidized by U.S. taxpayers. He was also listed on the website of the Minnesota African Union, which explicitly supports African immigrants to the United States. Now, he was also a preacher, and his wife was also at one point active in politics. But to the extent that he was appointed by two different Democrat governors in Minnesota to state labor boards, workforce boards, and his wife interned for Minnesota Governor Tim Walz in 2010. So the math isn't mathing. It doesn't add up. And whatever these Democrat friends say in the media, which obviously they're taking a lot of heat over this in Minnesota, because of obviously what it looks like to everyone is that this was a politically targeted shooting of these four people were targeted explicitly, and that this so-called manifesto is a list of supposed other Democrats and anti-abortion rantings and so forth. But actions speak louder than words. So you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to do the logical deduction here. It's a simple case of Mill's method of similarity and difference, or the Sesame Street version is one of these things that's not like the other, right? So if you analyze this, the two lawmakers that he targeted speaks more than all of these other hearsay and these other documents that the media is going to try to twist and confuse people and have a smokescreen or a plausible deniability operation, as I would call it. So what can you trust? You can trust what you can see with your own eyes. And they're refusing to release this manifesto to the public. They're screening it for us. This is the type of paternalism we rebelled against in 1776. The British Empire thought they knew better than us. They demanded, the Stamp Act. They wanted to stamp all, wanted us to pay for taxes, to stamp all of our documents, and they wanted to supervise everything that we did. This runs directly contrary to the idea of equality, that we're all citizens and we need to deal with each other as equals. And this sort of elitist paternalism runs directly contrary to who we are as a people, as we are to Americans. And I think it's one reason the Democratic Party is so out of touch with the rest of America, because we have our own minds. We want to be an informed public. And there's no point having an electorate where we select our leaders through elections to represent us if we can't be fully informed of what is going on. They need to stop acting like Praetorian Guards, which he belonged to an organization called the Praetorian Guard. Actually, Bolter did. And we need to have that restored back into our body politics, because you don't withhold manifestos from the American people if they can explain what is really going on with the story, instead of the narrative police telling us what it supposedly means. So if you support the manifesto being released just the way it was released with Ryan Ruth, the attempted Trump assassin, then please comment below, like, comment, share. We really appreciate your support.